The Guilty was a story that started off going nowhere and it ended up a block away. But before I get into my review of this movie, please consider this your spoiler warning. So, this movie was really weird in the way it was shot. So we know that there's an officer and we know that something happened in a fire and there's a fire currently happening. And the movie goes out of its way to try to make us feel something for the lead character. Now, this movie must have been very cheaply done because it's basically just shot in one area. That's it. Just one area. It doesn't go anywhere. There's no other scenes from outside. There's a couple of imagined shots, I guess. But I mean, this movie could have been shot for probably under $10,000 or probably even $5,000 if you could afford it. Now, obviously, the lead actor, obviously they can't get him for that cheap, but it wasn't like bad and it wasn't cheaply shot. I'm just saying that it's a movie that was just stuck in one place for the whole story, and it tries to let us know that something's up. Now, we know that this police officer is involved in something and he's in dispatching right now, and he's dealing with divorce, plus he's dealing with some sort of trauma. Now, we don't know what the trauma is until the end of the movie when he confesses. Now, it's an hour and a half until he confesses, so you're just like, what is going on? So, or not what's going on, but you're like, oh, that's why he was acting erratic. Because the whole movie, he is erratic. He is, all over the place and how he's acting. And you're like, why is he being such a dick to his coworkers? Why is he being so rude to the people that he's helping as a 911 dispatcher? You can't have that kind of attitude. And he's just going all over the place. And like I said, you just don't know what happens to him until the end, where you're like, oh, that's why he was, acting that way. So basically, he's, like I said, he's a 911 dispatcher, and he gets a call, right? And he thinks, or at least from what the movie shows us, is this woman that ends up being kidnapped, and he takes it personal, and he wants to find her and find her kidnapper, and he's going above and beyond his duty to try to find out. And then he finds out where this woman lives, and she finds out that this woman was abducted or taken by her husband, and there's two kids that they left behind. But the little girl there was telling the cop, like, oh, you know what, my little brother is asleep and I don't want to bother him. So he goes out and, calls favors and people to do a wellness check, or other officers to do a wellness check. And they find that when they go in there, they find out that the little boy is severely injured. He was stabbed in the stomach, and he's freaking out. So he thinks that the dad, now the father of these two boys, has a criminal record. And I get it. If I was a dispatcher, I'd be like, oh, yeah, it's an abduction, because that's what she said, that she was abducted and she was in a car. And the reasoning goes that, he's the perp that they're trying to find him. Now, around the 58-minute mark is where this quote-unquote twist. Now, leading up to it, you see the hints and you catch on to it real quick, and you're like, wait, the woman is going to be the killer. And sure enough, right on freaking cue, you're like, it tells you, like, gives you the goodies. And maybe that was by design, or maybe because of the script, however it was, but it leads you to that, like, 20 minutes before the reveal. So around the 38 mark, you're like, wait, this sounds like the whole thing's fishy. And then, again, she tells them, like, oh, you know what, or yeah, she says it about cutting them and releasing the snakes, because their son was complaining about something and he had snakes in his stomach, and he realizes that, oh crap, it's this woman. And then he's trying to convince the woman to not kill herself, because he had promised his daughter that mom will be coming back. And it gets all confusing and convoluted and way too it thinks too much of itself. At least the plot does, and the writers thought too much, where it just leaves you empty, and you're just kind of like, well, that's it, So again, it was interesting. I liked the premise. I liked the way it was shot. Jake did a great job in acting. From his facial features to his mannerism to how spastic he is, and of course at the end we find out that he killed someone, and it was very poignant to the times. It was a cop, and not saying anything about race or anything like that, but it was a cop that dished out his own form of justice, and by killing someone, and he just said, hey, I killed someone and I wanted to see him suffer. I wanted to see him pay for his crime. And at the end we find out that he was convicted, and it says, oh, he's one of the only 4 officers convicted in, I think it was Los Angeles or some shit like that. And it just kind of led to itself like, officers don't really get convicted, da 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 da. So there's like a social message there. But all in all, I think this movie was a little bit of a miss, but I still enjoyed it. I hanged all the way through. Once you find the big twist, you're like, okay, but Jake with his acting kind of pushes you through the whole movie, so that's respectable. And for that, I rate this movie a C+. And I think a lot of people will enjoy it when they see it. It's a very thriller-like. I did feel myself getting a little bit excited at points. So when you could grab some kind of emotion from me, I think you did somewhat of a good job. Like I said in the beginning, the pacing was horrible before it, so that's why I rate this movie a C+. But anyways, that's just my rating. Those are just my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. And like always, that's a wrap.